everybody. Welcome back to the Zilosophy Podcast. This is an exciting day. I didn't even look ahead of time, but it's been at least a couple months since I've done a podcast. I missed you guys, and I hope you missed me too. In fact, I know some of you did at least. So shout out to Julie and Zach and Frank and everybody else who reached out, encouraging me to keep doing this. I've just been dealing with my own personal stuff, as we all have been, right? And a big part of this podcast is to talk about that publicly. So now I'm doing that again. Also, I've been developing a really exciting project, which has taken a lot of my time. It's called inclusivity.golf. And inclusivity is spelled with a T-E-E at the end for the golf pun. You can go to that website, inclusivity.golf, and you can see the teaser video. The full overview deck is up. We haven't actually launched it publicly yet, but I guess I just did. Or actually, I did it someone else's IGTV Live last week, and I mentioned it. So here you go. Check out inclusivity.golf. It's about using golf as a platform to build unity through inclusivity and diversity. And so we're going to be doing workshops for a really fun way of doing diversity, equity, and inclusivity training. There's going to be a podcast, which I'll tell you about once that launches. I'll tell you about here. Merchandise, website, apps. There's going to be all kinds of stuff, and using golf as a platform for inclusivity, because the bottom line is, if golf can go from one of the most exclusive sports to one of the most inclusive sports on earth, well, that's a great story to tell. Golf is not all the way there yet, but it's on its way, and we want to help that, and we want to tell that story as we help do that. And we think that that's a good story for humanity, because if golf can do it, if golf can make that big of a leap, then anyone can do it, right? And that's what this is about. So to today's episode, a really special episode, not just because I'm back, but we've got Valerie Z coming on with us, who's you can look at her, check her out, her stuff out on Instagram at the Radiant Warrior. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. At the Radiant Warrior, and she's a healer and just a really incredible person that I've gotten to know just over the last week, and we've gotten to know each other pretty well. We've talked quite a bit, and it's been really cool. And so what we're going to do is an interesting format. She's actually going to come on my podcast and interview me. So I don't know what she's going to ask. I'll probably be, throwing some questions back at her, because we're still getting to know each other. And we've got a lot in common, and we're on a similar path, and it's just a really exciting time for both of us. So glad that you could join us. So coming up right now, Valerie Z, the Radiant Warrior, and the Zilosophy Podcast. Okay, so here we are with Valerie Z, the traditional Polish pronunciation, or Zebrowski, as y'all say in the Midwest.
Good job. Yes.
One of my goals, my main goal of today, was to get you to blush on camera, but you did that right before we came on air, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that again. Wait, it looks like there's a little color coming there.
I do also live in Florida, and it is very hot.
Yes. So anyway, welcome.
Yeah.
Glad you're here. Excited for people to get to know you and your Radiant Warriors movement. And also excited that we're going to do the Zilosophy Podcast in a different format this time, where you're actually going to interview me. Because I have been, for a bunch of reasons. We've been talking a lot over the last week. We have a lot of connections, a lot of things in common, and definitely same paths career-wise and life-wise. So, it's been really fun to get to know you and to know about what you're doing. And I want other people to know about that too. But also, I haven't talked for a while about what's going on with me. So it'll be fun to be interviewed on my own show so that I can talk about some of the stuff that I've been processing over the last couple months. I realized that the reason I do this podcast and the book and all that stuff is to talk about my own personal struggles publicly, so that other people know that it's okay, and that that it's actually shows strength to talk about the things you're going through publicly, or even not publicly, but with your friends and family, so that you can deal with it and process it better. So I haven't been doing that lately. Maybe that's why it's been so long to process this, but now I'm back. We're back.
Ebbs and flows.
Ebbs and flows. Yes, that's
Yeah.
one of the themes
That's
we've
why I'm
been
excited
discussing.
to do it with you, because I was calling in someone as a healthy divine masculine looking to open their hearts to people, to show them how it is okay to process that stuff.
Well, shucks, now you're going to make me blush.
Good.
So listen, before you start firing away at me, I know you got tons of questions, and I look forward to answering them. And I think you've heard some of the podcasts in the past, right? It's more of a conversation than an interview anyway, so it may not really be any different than I've normally done, except, I don't know, hopefully
Let's try to make it different.
I'll talk a little less. But first, I want people to know about you, because you did grow up in a very traditional Midwestern family and background. And now you're this really strong female healer presence. You've got, you do your IGTV videos are amazing. Guys, you need to check them out. That's at The Radiant Warrior on Instagram, and check out all her stuff. You know, I see a lot of pretty women diving into this field, and just like anywhere else in the world, half of them are phonies, right? It's just like, I'm pretty and I want to do something, and this is not you. You are pretty. Let me say that.
Thank you.
That's not what I meant.
I chose such a beautiful avatar, did I not?
You did. What I meant is that there's real authenticity and real depth behind your work, and that's really what's attractive to me as a person and as a fellow light worker. So yeah. I want to hear a little bit about how that all happened, and then you can start asking me a bunch of questions.
Awesome. So growing up in Chicago, very, very strict religious family. I was always confused. I didn't really understand it. I asked a lot of questions about religious things. And you can say I'm the black sheep of the family. So I never fit in, really. I think I always had a difficult time with that whole concept. And my parents still to this day, I mean, my mom was really good at kind of like pushing me to being authentic and inspiring me to speak my truth and be myself, still does to this day. She's actually very proud of me on the journey that I am right now, and showing myself in the way that I am, which is a somewhat recent thing. But my dad, of course, is a little confused, which is fine. But what has happened with that, and how that has molded me, and with not fitting in and moving a lot, so I've moved like every 3 years of my life, it kind of forced me into needing to morph in a way to fit in often or make friends fast. But I saw myself, I didn't always morph. I was actually always triggering people, you know, like asking questions that either made them uncomfortable or being someone that they wanted to be too, you know, and I always enjoyed igniting that inside of them, you know?
Yeah.
And
wait, are you going to ask me questions that make me uncomfortable? I'm
so.
suddenly not comfortable with this. Sorry, I'm kidding.
Cancel. Time out.
Pause. I'm kidding. Continue.
I know. So, yeah. Now what has led me living in Colorado, I found a lot of my soul tribe there, really awakened me. I don't know if we want to go into plant medicine, but that has also awakened me a lot, and showed me a reality that I've always known existed. And I've been able to really bring that into my life now and really embody that fully. And now that I see that, it's just catapulted me in this direction now. And the Radiant Warriors, or the Radiant Warrior, what I wanted to do with that is, it takes commitment, dedication, vulnerability, bravery to show yourself, to tell your story, to be authentic in each moment, whether it be you're terrified or not, you know? So for me, I feel like I am a warrior, you know. Trauma can also be your empowerment, and that's kind of what is happening. And originally started with me working a lot more with women, and helping women that have been through trauma and helping them learn how to love themselves And that's really what I'm wanting to do here, is teach people how to love themselves. And that's what I love about your book,
Oh,
is
shout
that
out.
you're kind of teaching people the same thing, but more, I guess, in a more masculine sense. So
Yeah, well, with golf as the metaphor, it's definitely more masculine. I've been wanting to write a yoga book as well, which will be obviously a little more feminine. But it's all the same stuff, right? Like, how do we look inward and focus on bringing our best to the world? Stop worrying about what everybody else is doing and just do our own personal best. And if everybody did that, we'd be fine.
right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I
Um,
just posted, you probably didn't get to see it because it was right before we went on air, but I was taking a walk earlier and Marvin Gaye's What's Going On came on my Spotify. I had on shuffle play. I thought, like, what a great song, picket lines and picket signs. Don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me so you can see what's going on. And like, to me, that's what's missing in the world, is talking to each other. We're spewing opinions at each other, and this is where we differ. Like, okay, fine, we're going to differ in a lot of ways, but why don't we just talk to each other based on the things we have in common, which the most basic thing is that we're all human and we're all struggling with shit.
yeah. And
So
we're
how
all
do
going through an awakening. We're going through a huge awakening too.
yeah, and how do
Which
we
leads me to one thing I wanted to say is,
okay.
you just so happened to write this awesome book to help. And before getting in contact with you, and this is how the universe works, is I was kind of calling that in, this divine masculine, this person that has looked at their demons, has faced their weaknesses, and has wrote about it.
Yeah.
And I just love that you related it in a language that everyone can understand, even if it's about golf. I don't know really much about golf. I putt putt.
That counts.
I've been to a driving range, and
Oof,
I was very sore,
yeah.
very sore afterwards.
Well, if
And I
you're
know,
swinging like that, that'll make
watch out.
that'll make you pretty sore. Yeah, that was the point, is how can I address a really serious topic that needs to be discussed, but do it in a light and fun way so that it's super digestible. So I appreciate that you get that. And it was written so that you don't have to play golf to get it. And I'm glad, I've heard from several people, including now yourself. But I just want to say what you said about calling it in. I've been doing that too, which is why we connected. But it's funny, I sent you that quote this morning from Rumi that says, what you seek is also seeking you.
Yes.
So that's interesting. And that's how we got here. So
Yeah, exactly.
uh, what else you want to ask me?
Well, so you had mentioned something about this maybe not being recognized in a time, oftentimes, like, artists are recognized for their works of art after they pass or something like that. But I honestly, with my premonition abilities and my intuitive knowing, I would say definitely this is the opportune time for a man to step into this knowing and to be open about it. How are you feeling about that now? Are you feeling that it is a good time? Or?
Yeah, well, I shared with you before that I know that when I wrote this, and you know me well enough now, we've talked a lot over the last week, but for those who don't that might be listening, I'm not an ego guy. If anything, I'm super insecure, which is why it's been really hard to transform and do this work. But I also shared with you that I realized sitting in the back of the auditorium doesn't help anybody. Being up front on stage talking about this stuff does. I've always thought that this was a 1,000,000 copy selling book. I know it is. It's everybody who's ever read it has raved in a way that I never thought would happen. I had one guy who was in his 80s whose son-in-law owns a bookstore say to me he thought it was the best book he's ever read in his life.
That's
like,
great.
what?
And you have such great humor in it too.
Thanks. Well, that's the point. Is I've shared with you too that sometimes I can take things a little too seriously, but really my nature is to be funny and witty and just have fun with it. And so I'm trying to practice that. But to answer your question about where I'm at with that now, yeah, the coincidences of timing are crazy, right? Like, because they're not coincidences. I don't believe in coincidences. I know you don't either. I happened to write this book a couple of years ago. I had been getting messages from the other side, psychics, mediums, astrologers, past life regression. Everybody's like, just write this book. I'm like, I'm not a writer. Leave me alone. But then I finally did.
Little do you know.
And then I finally did. And, as I also told you, a lot of it was channeled, just like any great artist or musician. It doesn't come from them, but rather through them. And this book was like that for me. And I sat back and went, wow, this is pretty damn good. I think this could be something. And now cut to 2020 when all this turmoil is going on and people are on the brink of losing it because we feel so divided. But really, this is the opportunity to connect, speaking about the pandemic, but then also all the social injustices bubbling up. And so we've created a brand called inclusivity.golf, and that's a website anybody can go check out. Inclusivity is spelled with a T-E-E for the golf pun. But it's a social change platform using golf as a platform to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if golf can go from the most exclusive sport on earth to one of the most inclusive sports on earth, well, that's a great story to tell. And that also proves that no one has any excuses. Anybody can do it if golf did it. And to me, that's the really exciting thing, because the timing is there. Major sports are getting involved in social change, some of them doing it better than others. I've been a big fan of the way that the PGA has handled itself, not being reactive, but rather taking a step back and listening and being proactive. So all that to say that, yes, the timing is now right. And I do think that in my lifetime, I always thought that maybe it'll sell 1 million copies after I'm gone, and that's fine too. But it seems like now the timing has changed, and maybe it's going to happen sooner than later. And I certainly hope so, not for my own benefit, but as you know, I don't do this for my own benefit.
Right.
We talked last night, and we can get into ayahuasca and plant medicine, which I've now tried some ayahuasca ceremonies since my last podcast and haven't talked about that. So I'm definitely open to that. But one of the guys I talked to there about doing that work, and they do this particular group that I won't mention their name, they're always doing things and always working. And we were sitting there talking, and someone said, so this is what you really want to do? And he's like, no, I really want to sit on a beach in Costa Rica and do nothing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't help the world, and that doesn't help me grow and evolve. And I thought that was a really great way of putting it. I'm the same. I don't necessarily want to do this. I'm very fortunate and grateful that I am getting to do this and meeting
But
people.
you have passion for it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I do. No, I do enjoy it.
And it's
Don't
your
get me wrong.
purpose. Yeah.
Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that, like, what I'd rather do is be rich and sit on a beach and do nothing.
One day.
But that's not, no, I'm never going to do that. For a day or two, yeah.
You do like the 4-hour work week.
I have, because of my young part of my career, I worked so hard. It's really cool that now I'm able to really accomplish a whole week's work in about 2.5 or 3 days if I just bust it out.
Yeah,
which is really nice. I sort of prefer that.
That's right? The paradigm shift, I think, that's happening. It's no longer about the hustle. It's about the inspiration. And inspiration, that word stems from being in spirit. So I believe that's what was happening for you with your book.
That's cool. I never really put that together.
I surprised you with something?
Yeah. Well, look, I'm, as you know, if you read my book, you know that I'm in no way think that I know everything. In many ways, that book was an open letter to myself. Okay, you want to change the world, dude? Okay, this is how you do it. Don't look out there, look in here. That's how you change the world.
Exactly. And I think that's what's happening in the world right now, that's the war that's happening, is we've been so used to seeking without for our answers, seeking through people, validation through experiences, and attaching to the story. But really, and that's what your book is doing for people, if you want a perfect golf swing, it's being in the present moment and feeling that and practicing that moment and being here now and going within, for sure.
That's why golf's a great metaphor. And I look forward to teaching you the game so that you can get the pain and the frustration and the joy,
Well, I grew up a hockey family, so I
well, there
play
you go.
hockey. So I think I know how to do that.
Hockey players are extraordinary golfers because
Yeah, what is that? Happy Madison? What's that movie?
yeah, right.
Adam Sandler.
But in reality, one of the technical things about a golf swing that's really important is getting your hands tight to your body, what they call inside, so you can generate power. You don't want to reach. You want your hands really close to you. So, and hockey players intuitively know how to do that because they've been doing it their whole lives.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have that ability, that will help. But what I was going to say,
I mean, I can't say I'm good on ice skates,
but talking about like staying present. So I've gone through a tumultuous couple of months personally. Nothing happened or anything. Just, this is hard right now. So I've been just dealing with it. Not so surprisingly, it also coincided with a 2-month ridiculous slump in my golf game. I went from playing almost as good as I've ever played earlier in the year because I played so much down in Florida during the lockdown to literally almost not remembering how to swing at all, like completely lost. No, that was in the book, but this actually just happened again.
Oh, okay.
And there's a chapter in the book called Lost and Found, and that sometimes we go through these periods in life, and metaphorically
you need a pause
in our golf game where we're just lost, and it feels like you're never going to find your way out of it again. And I felt like that with my golf swing. It's like, and do I just have the yips now and I'm never going to be able to play again like I used to, or what's going on? And then I realized that I was overthinking it and trying too much. And then I had gone to ayahuasca and done a plant ceremony. So I was able to feel reconnected to humanity and to the planet and the universe and all of it. And I was in a much more calm state. So the next time I went out to play golf, I said, you know something? The only thing I'm going to focus on today is staying present. And I'm going to stay present on every shot. And I'm going to stay present in between shots. And I got stuck behind a foursome. I was playing by myself and they were going pretty fast for a foursome, but slow comparatively to me. And they apologized to me at one point. I said, guys, please no rush. I literally have nowhere to go today. And while I was waiting for them in between shots, instead of thinking about the shot that I'm about to hit or what's going to go on today or looking at my phone, I was literally just like a child gazing at the clouds and the trees and the animals and staying present to the moment. Like, this is the moment I have right now. Let me just take it in and enjoy it. And
which is what we're being called to do right now.
Yeah. And
really enjoy the moment of
enjoy
Earth.
The pain. And wouldn't you know that miraculously, I suddenly played great again that day.
Great.
Because I was present and I wasn't overthinking it and I wasn't forcing it and it just worked. But what you said about being forced that we can transition to, I think that's a good thing. One of the things I learned from plant medicine and ayahuasca was that the pain is the joy. There's no separation and there's no joy without pain.
The duality, yeah. It's making friends with the pain was what I just experienced recently. That's the book, The Untethered Soul, too, which I suggested for you, was that it's when you make friends with the pain, you realize that if it takes away its power, one, and its emphasis and control over your life, and you say, well, thank you. It's all going back to gratitude too. Thank you for showing me that my golf game sucks right now because I'm not being present. And then going back to being present and you have a better golf game. Making friends with the pain and the frustration. Oh,
it's not easy.
Difficult. Right? No,
because
but it's powerful.
It is, because that's how we learn and grow. And I know we both shared this off air that the most painful experiences in our lives are the most important ones. Those are the ones that push us and force us to grow.
We have to choose to learn from them.
Well, we don't have to, but I highly recommend that we do.
Yes.
Because otherwise
it's just going to keep happening.
The pain plays on a very painful loop and it gets more painful.
Yeah. You're like, okay, let me just learn this lesson now.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've said that to God, to the universe. Like, why do I keep getting the same damn lesson? I get it. And they're like,
nope,
obviously you don't. Or otherwise we'd stop.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's brutal when that happens, when you're just like, well, I think I'm doing everything right. But how do you step back and just find enough awareness to go, okay, what are the things that I'm not doing? How can I be compassionately self-critical about what I should be learning here, as opposed to being like, well, I know what's going on and you don't. Like, that's just childish and silly, right? Like,
It's ego too. Your ego wants you
yeah,
to stay the same. Your ego wants you to.
it's like with your child, right? You've got a 4-year-old son,
4-year-old, yeah.
Xander.
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
trying to guide him and direct him based on your expanded knowledge and consciousness.
right.
But in his experience, he's got his little thing and he knows what he knows and he's going to tell you.
And it's such this fine line of
That's what we
teaching
are.
him.
That's what
Yeah.
we are as people to God, the universe, whatever word you want to use, right? We're these little 4-year-olds going, but I know better.
Exactly.
Do we really?
Well, no. And sometimes I want to say he knows what's better for him too than I do.
Well, there is part of that. Sure.
And he's very much my teacher when he's saying, no, mama, like this is how I want to do this. And I say, I surrender and I say, fine, go, learn, do what you have to learn on your own. I don't have to control the situation.
Right.
Which I think is what
God's again has to do. Another great metaphor of God and the human children is that free will, right? Mm-hmm. We've been given free will, which is great to guide our own experience. But sometimes as I get more enlightened or whatever, I see more spiritually for myself, I think maybe I shouldn't have so much free will. maybe my choices and decisions aren't the best, and I should just follow the signs and the guidance that I get. And and you and I both, we've talked about a lot about that too. You and I both do that, right? Like, we follow the signs of the universe, and I've talked to you about many things like this. Like, it's not up to me. It's up to the universe to decide. I don't swim upstream anymore. I spent the first 39 years of my life swimming upstream and realized at the end that I was exhausted.
It's so exhausting.
I just let the stream take me with its flow, and I can, the metaphor of a paddleboard or a kayak, I can guide that flow a little bit and have some say in it, but really the major push of that flow is not under my control, nor should it be.
Well, it's like having a desire, knowing that it's going to come to you, but not needing to know the how, the when, or the why, essentially, and just kind of letting it happen.
Are we still talking about spirituality?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. I was thinking about something else. Oh, finally made her blush. All right, sorry. I'm sorry.
You're silly.
Let's continue.
Okay. But and now I'm noticing too, with the higher frequency energies that are going on, if we want to get that out there, is when you are in resistance and you are not going with the flow, you are suffering. It's
painful.
You're choosing suffering over.
Think about that metaphor of swimming upstream.
True.
This is a really great metaphor.
Exactly.
It is painful and exhausting and frustrating. And when is it going to let up? It's going to let up when you freaking let go.
Yes. That's the letting go, right?
And that's what it's about. And this is not easy for any of us, especially now.
Would you say the letting go is also the same moment I don't even know the name of what's the part of the golf club that hits the actual ball?
Oh, the club head.
Is it the club head? So and then it's like in the letting go, it's like the perfect of the golf club hitting the golf ball and letting it just
that's actually in the book. There's a whole chapter about that.
I thought that's what it was, right?
And it's once you make contact with the ball, you have zero control over what happens next.
Yeah, and that's perfect for life.
You may have hit it perfectly, but there may be a bad bounce. There may be a gust of wind that you could never have expected. There could be a bird that happens to fly by and actually hit your ball.
Has that ever happened to you?
Not this fall. I have hit a bird tragically once. Rest in peace, big bird.
You actually got the bird like that badly?
There was
Oh,
one on the
wow.
ground, and I hit a low liner.
Oh,
And
shoot.
caught it the wrong way, but
It's okay. You're forgiven, I'm sure.
thank you. But no, like that's why I wrote about it in the book is this is the metaphor. There are certain things in life that we cannot control. We need to learn, and in order to learn, we need to practice vehemently to let go of those things that we cannot control. We cannot control what other people say, what other people think. But what do you see on social media and on the news every day, all day? You should tell those people what they should think and say.
Right.
No.
But some of those people want to be that way. They want somebody to tell them, because it's too difficult really it's not an easy journey to actually face that and
yeah,
go.
I mean, look, people need guidance. That's why you and I have the careers we have now, right? But neither of us come from a place where like, I know everything, you know. I don't know. I don't know anything. That's the place I come from. Now, I happen to know a lot and be spiritually evolved and whatever, but I come from the standpoint where I don't know anything, which is the place where I can learn the most.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about for me is if I'm out there spewing my opinions to people about what I think they should think, it doesn't help them. And I can't tell people what they should do. All I can do is talk about this stuff and talk about my experience and my existence in hopes that it encourages them to think about their own. And I can reflect that to them to show them, hey, this is where you are in life. But from there, it's up to them.
Yeah.
To make those choices and those decisions about what goes on in their life. And then once they make those choices and decisions, that's that metaphor of hitting the ball, then you see where it lands and you go find it and hit it again.
Yeah.
And it's really that simple. But
we
make it a lot more complicated.
Yes. With my career now, so I call myself a life and soul guide. I don't like calling it a coach because I feel like a coach is very like harsh in a way, controlling, I want to say. But a guide is someone that says, let me just guide you. You can take with this and go in the direction that you want and see what happens.
Yeah, and
I believe in you.
A lot of people are life coaches and certified life coaches, and they put up this front like they have it all figured out, and I can tell you how to fix your life. But the part that misses for me is that you're being inauthentic because you're a mess. You're a mess too, just like I am.
Yeah. The only reason my clients like me is because I'm saying, listen, I literally just went through the same thing last week, and that's only the reason I can help you today.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, the distinction from the traditional life coaches that are out there. Like they're very, to me, very inauthentic because what they don't do is what you do and what I do and say, look, I don't know anything. I'm a mess half the time or more. I just happen to think about certain things and put myself in this space to ask for these answers and this guidance so that I can share it with other people in hopes that it gives them some inspiration to keep going through this crazy journey.
Perfect.
Perfect. So, do I get a gold star?
Yeah. You can have a couple gold stars.
Thank you.
Something I wanted to talk to you about also is perfectionism.
Oh boy.
Perfect.
That's a tough one, right?
It's a tough one. Actually, hold on. I'm going to pull up the part in your book that I underlined.
Yeah. Well,
commitment to perfection was what you said. And the belief system behind that, like, why is it that some people have this commitment to wanting to be perfect, right?
Yeah, well, I think,
but but also this is where in my spiritual journey that is fascinating to me is there's two ways of looking at it is, well, we are already perfect, right? We are already whole as we are right now in this moment, perfectly imperfect.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I like that phrase.
Yeah, I love that phrase. I love that phrase because we are human.
Yeah, we're not meant to be perfect.
Some of us are human than others.
We're not meant to be perfect. We're not going to be perfect. So to me, the first part of that is just learning to let that go. And
I'm saying though is like, what if we are perfect?
Yeah, look, that's a matter of semantics and
True.
philosophically, how do you
Yeah.
want to address
Okay.
this conversation and question? I agree with
Yeah.
you. As you know, we are
Right.
perfectly imperfect. But I'm
Okay.
just
Yes.
talking
Yes.
about the traditional human sense of perfection and why we think that like practice makes
Yes.
perfect.
That's my question.
No, it
Exactly.
doesn't. First of all, you can't be perfect. And second of all, what if you're practicing the wrong things? That
Mm-hmm.
certainly doesn't make you perfect. It pushes you in the other direction. And that's what that chapter is about. So I think it's first, the biggest thing is letting go that we're going to be perfect, accepting that the imperfections are perfect, and
Mm-hmm.
understanding that there are certain imperfections within ourselves and our personal lives, our careers, or our golf game that we want to improve and make better. They're still not going to
Mm-hmm.
become perfect, but they can become better. I can become more patient. I can become more accepting. I can just find joy. I can learn to find joy no matter what, even when my golf game's going like crap. Hey, I'm here with my friends. It's a beautiful day out. So what if I played like shit today?
Yeah. Exactly. Going back to that gratitude.
So I think that, you know, perfection's a big thing. And it goes back again to what we expect of each other because of our own hangups with perfection. We're
Mm-hmm.
spewing our opinions at other people because of their imperfections and pointing out their imperfections, mostly as a defense mechanism so that we don't have to face our own imperfections and deal with
Mm.
our own imperfections and improve the
Right.
ones that we can. Um, Instead, yeah, so we're doing that and we're pointing at other people, and again it's like, just stop, turn the mirror back around, look at
Yeah. It was
yourself.
mirrors. Yeah.
What are the things that I can work on to be a better person? I can't
Mm-hmm.
control what that person does and says, but if they see me really authentically working on my shit, it's really going to take away a lot of their power to point out my imperfections, because clearly I know what they are already, and clearly I'm working on them the best that I
You're
can.
like, I don't need you to point out mine. I already know. I'm working
Which
on them.
which is all we can do for each other, right? Encourage
Yeah.
each other to work on the things that we should all be working on,
Yeah.
finding a way um, to love and respect each other even when we don't like each other. We're not going to like each other all the time. It's not
Right.
possible. And I think that that's a really important message, and a really important thing is to understand that we're all going through difficult things. We're all imperfect, and we are all trying our best, and we should all try our best. And if we all tried our best, if we all took on the stuff that we're talking about, and I'm not saying again, oh, I have the answers, if you just do this your life will be great. No, but if we want the world to be better, which everybody claims to want, but nobody's doing anything about it. And the
Right.
biggest thing that you can do, or I can do, or anybody can do to make the world a better place, is just work on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple.
Well, because
It's
we're all
not,
connected. It's
it's
all
not,
connected. It's all oneness.
yeah, well, it's funny. That's actually the point I was trying to get to, and I couldn't remember it, is the Bible passage, um, to love thy neighbor and do unto those as you would have done to yourself. Those aren't just words that are meant to guide us as humans on what the right way to um, to connect to each other and work with each other is. This is actually a really deep truth that we need to understand. There is no separation. I am you and you are me.
Mm-hmm.
In some other dimension, I could have all of your issues and all of your problems and maybe not be dealing with them all that well. So who the heck am I to judge you and what you're going through? My job is to send you love and go, whew, I can see what you're going through is difficult. How can I support you? Let me help you, not fix it for you, but let me help you, just encourage you and send you light, because there is no separation. I'm actually helping myself when I do that.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the last years through my charity work, in Freemasonry and outside of Freemasonry, is that when I'm not feeling good about myself, I just go help somebody else, and
Yeah. It
suddenly
actually boosts your immune system. Did you know that? When you
well,
volunteer to help
I've
others,
I've
it
felt
boosts
it.
so many things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, to me, the best medicine out there when you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling depressed. Like, you don't need pharmaceuticals. What you need to do is go find somebody that's having a really bad time and go help them through it, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
is,
But not too
financially,
good. Also,
physically.
yeah. Yeah. Not, you have to have good
Um,
boundaries, though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying take on everyone else's energy. And obviously, there are people that have toxic energy that you have to protect yourself from. But what I am saying is that if you feel like you're in a space where you don't know why you're here and what's going on, like we all feel at times, the best way to get out of that headspace is to go do something for someone else, something really meaningful. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It could just be a really small thing. It could be a day of practicing holding the door open for people and saying hi to them,
Yeah.
really saying hi to them when you see them on the street. I see you. Hello. I hope you have a good day. And you don't even have to do it verbally. You can do it telepathically.
Yeah.
Just say it
I
in your
tell
mind.
people, well, now it's hard. You can't tell everyone to smile, but the smile is huge, you know? And I mean, you can smile with your eyes.
You have a great smile.
Thank you.
You made yourself blush on that one. I didn't have to do anything.
I didn't want to bring up the mask thing. That's why I was like, oh God.
No, look, this show.
But it's also,
you don't know that much about this show. This show is meant to have these conversations that are difficult publicly. So
yeah. So it's frustrating to me that I know that a smile can, and just that's, you could even just, people don't smile at each other anymore. Growing up in Chicago, and nowadays everyone's just staring at their phones, and you know, it's creating such a separation. And as well as now you can't see, this is my money maker right here, you know. Like when I'm selling products at my booth and I can't smile, it's like
we're being stifled in that way by this pandemic.
Want to give that,
and it's very frustrating because you and I both know that really these masks don't do all that much, but they do something. And you know, most of the population thinks that we should be more safe than sorry. And I understand that. I don't necessarily always agree with it, but I understand it. One thing that I've learned about this pandemic, again, is that everybody's going through difficult stuff. So you need to give each other space. If I'm outside not wearing a mask and I'm not near anybody, I don't appreciate the dirty looks, man. I'm not hurting anybody.
Stop shaming me. I just need some air.
Right. I have a tough time.
It boosts my immune system, man.
But also, like, you know, there's a time where you have to be respectful. When you're going into a store or even when you're outside and you stop to talk to someone, you need to have a mask because it is a certain amount of respect and carefulness because we don't really know what's going on. But with everything in humanity, we can take it too far. So now you see these people driving by themselves in their car wearing masks.
I can't.
It's like, what, you know, and again, I'm not trying to judge you because
I'm not either. I'm trying not to.
I am you, right? In some sense, I could see myself taking something to that extreme. And what I try to do to those people is just send them light and energy of like, you're taking it too far. You're hurting yourself because you think that it's a really respectful, safe thing to do, but you're actually going really too far with this. And you know, again, as people, we tend to take things too far.
Yeah.
And so there's
so we need to encourage people to find ways to connect and to make themselves be seen in a different way, like holding a door open for somebody or anonymous cute post-it notes on someone's windshield, like you are loved, you know.
Was that on that? We did a restart of this podcast. I meant to mention that earlier, but I didn't because Valerie's video was a little wonky. Was I talking about the Marvin Gaye thing on this version or before we restarted?
I think it was before.
Okay, so
I don't know.
I don't know either. Maybe I'll talk about it again. And if it's
okay,
if it's boring, no, but that was my point. Was I posted this thing about the Marvin Gaye song about you know what's going on, and the message again there is that we need to talk to each other. Everybody's going through difficult things, so don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me so you can see what's going on. Is a really important message for this world right now. We need to learn how to talk to each other again. We've forgotten. What we think is that everything should be a debate and an argument.
Right. Listen. But listen too.
Correct. We'll get to that in a minute. But a debate necessarily has a loser. What we're looking for is conversation, which is what this podcast is and what you and I are doing now. there's no debate, there's no argument, there's no winning or losing. It's a conversation that furthers the both of us and hopefully a lot of other people that are listening, which brings back to what you just said. We've also forgotten how to listen. When somebody starts talking, we all do this. I do it.
It's a superpower now.
We've both done it to each other on this very podcast. Somebody starts talking, you get really excited, but I want to say this. All right, there'll be a time to say that. Maybe right now you should shut the hell up and listen. And, this is a conversation that I have with myself all the time when I get excited and I want to say something. And I've done it a couple of times here already, to just remember again to be present. Someone else is talking now. First of all, let's not be rude. Second of all, let's actually listen to what they're saying so that we can be in a conversation with them, which is a two-part thing. It's not just one person talking at another one, but two people talking with each other, not to each other, but with each other, to help further themselves and get an understanding. There's a lot of people politically that I don't agree with. What I try to do is talk to them. I don't necessarily think that I'm going to agree with them, but I'll understand more about why they think the way they think. And that, to me, that's really important. People say, well, how can you talk to an extreme conservative? How could you talk to an extreme liberal? To me, how can I not? I don't relate to those people, extremists of any kind. So the best thing I can do is talk to them and understand why they think the way that they think, and try and get a better understanding so that I can encourage them and maybe gently nudge them back towards the middle, which is where I think we should all exist.
Well, they're also humans. You have to love them. That's a label that they're giving themselves. And they might need, I don't know. You just have to love everybody.
Well,
no
you don't have to
love them. You don't have to like them. You don't have to agree with them.
That's right.
But you have to love them. I think that's very much key.
There's a distinction there. We don't have to. The point is we should.
We should.
Because if we don't, it makes things a lot more painful for everyone involved. Yes. And that's really what my whole mission is, and my whole point of everything is that we're not going to like each other all the time. It's literally impossible. We're all very different physiologically, mentally, physically. We've had different upbringings. We have different taste buds. We like different things. Like there's all these differences, but there's so many commonalities. Again, starting with the most obvious one. We're all human. We're all going through this together. It's not easy.
Just be kind.
If we love each other, even when we don't like each other, it makes everything better. Like to just have respect and empathy and compassion for that other person and the difficult time that they're having. Even if you think their political views are so disgusting to you, still a human being going through a really hard time, trying to figure it out, trying to do their best, and getting caught up in the part of like, well, my best is to dive deep into my opinions. Okay, well, I understand that. Let's talk about that. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Maybe I can show you something that you think that where there's something a little bit different. Again, maybe there's a place where we can share opinions with each other and discuss them respectfully so that I can learn more and you can learn more.
I just did an IGTV on communication and ways you can do it that are respectful, and like how important tone is, how important it is to give the person time to speak. And I used to be terrible at interrupting. I know I've already interrupted you probably a couple times.
That's okay. I used to be terrible at it too. I'm still not great at it, but getting better.
But when you allow the other person that space and time, you actually do say the things you want to say, and they have more merit. If you're interrupting somebody and you're not truly listening to them, they don't even want to hear you because they're just thinking, well, you don't give a shit what I'm saying because you're interrupting what I'm saying, right? It's like not an exchange of this healthy love and communication.
Yeah, so that interaction has to start with you listening, because that's actually you literally showing them respect and love in that moment, that you're valid and the words that you're saying are valid. Even if I don't agree with them, there's validity to them because you're trying to share something with them.
Yeah. And listening is love, I think, a lot.
Well,
I've learned there's great power in learning to listen, not just to humans, but to our higher selves, to spirit, into having that guidance that can help you move forward.
To aliens, which we're going to get to before we're
Oh,
done.
I didn't bring my notebook.
That's okay. That's okay. We can always pause if we need to. But I want to say
Okay.
something important here about this conversation first. Staying present. I think a really important part of listening is each of us learning to manage our triggers. We've created a world now where we think that our triggers own us and run us. And I think
we've allowed them. Yeah.
I think that's bullshit. And not, I think your triggers are bullshit. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying
Right.
is you should learn to control your triggers just like I should learn to control mine. Like how often, I've talked a lot about being offended and how silly it is and how little it does for you other than make you frustrated and mad.
Mhm.
It's very rare that being offended is the appropriate choice. Very
Right.
rare. But we tend to choose it a lot these days. And that's what I'm talking about managing triggers. I understand that there's people that have had severe trauma in their lives and maybe even in past lives. But you can still learn to manage your triggers, and we all can. And if there's something severe and severe trauma involved, then obviously you need to get professional help with that. Short of that, we all just need more awareness to go, okay, just got triggered. Okay, well, who decided that would trigger me, and who decided that I would react in this way? Could I step back and react in a better way, even though that triggered me? Could I put that aside and choose something better for this conversation, for this interaction right now? And I think most times the answer to those questions is yes. But again, it takes practice. The first part of that practice is becoming aware that your triggers don't run you unless you let them.
And it's about responding and not reacting.
Yeah. Responding.
Triggers are truly a blessing. And if we can help shift that paradigm to, instead of it running our life and being this very uncomfortable, which it is very uncomfortable, but say, okay, well, if I actually go within and I face this, and actually that's a huge aspect of quantum healing, something that I do, is you look at the trigger, and a lot of healers are doing this, is you look at the trigger, you ask, where is this coming from in my body, essentially? How old was I when I first instilled this belief system that is most triggers stem from many things: unworthiness, abandonment, shame, guilt, lack of self-love, lack of love, all that stuff. So if you can go within and say, this is something that has triggered me, and why, and how old was I, and you go back and you love that inner child, and you love that, and you say, I don't need to react to this trigger because it's only going to help me evolve into being a better human. And then the triggers get less and less, and by practicing it, it gets easier and easier. It's not easy at all, though, in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, let's
the awareness.
If I could jump in, let's talk about this in reality instead of theoretically. Before this podcast started, we don't know each other all that well, but I told you something that you didn't know about me, that I'm a Freemason, which triggered this crazy response within you. Like, I've heard these awful things about those guys, and I'm sitting there going, yeah, I get it. A lot of people say awful things about Freemason.
Was the Freemason also an Illuminati?
No.
Okay, because that's my association.
Yeah, well, listen, that's most people's association, and that comes from, as I told you, Freemasons have done a really bad job in the modern world of explaining what it is and what we are.
Right.
So everybody fills in these made-up stories, and then those become reality. And then here it is, you're like, oh my God, this guy that I thought I could trust, and he's some weirdo in the dark shadows trying to control the world. Right, but like, let's talk about that. Like, that trigger was very real for you.
Yeah, it was.
It changed the whole energy of our interaction. Luckily, we were able to reset and reconnect, and everything was fine. But this is what really happens out in the real world. Somebody says something to us, and we go, "Oh my God, I can't be around that person. I can't trust that person.
Good example.
I can't talk to that person.
Throw me in.
But no, look, it's important for us to share the real experiences that we have. We all have it. I
Yeah.
do that too. People say things to me. I can't think of an example right now, but that happens to me too. How do we deal with that? How do we reset and go, okay, let me just talk to this person and learn more about them. And then I can realize if my triggered fear has any validity to it. Are
Right.
there really, is my intuition really telling me that this person is untrustworthy or said something really awful that makes them a bad person or whatever? Or is that just my mind creating fear and my ego trying to protect itself? This is
Mm-hmm.
a really important distinction, one that I'm learning every day of like, how do I distinguish the voices that I hear between my ego and my intuition? And the ego
That's a
gets
good one.
really good at imitating intuition and pretending that it's intuition. A silly example of this is like when you're playing fantasy football or something like that, right? Do I want to play this player today? Well, my mind starts going, analyzing all these different players and
First one.
right. If you just shut up, your intuition will tell you,
I'm
fine,
really good at that, by the
we've
way.
absorbed all that information. You can ignore it now. Let's just go from the gut. And
Yes.
with triggers, I think it's the same thing. That's why I use that analogy, is that like our ego convinces us that our intuition is triggering us that this person is bad or has
It's
said
not
something
safe.
bad.
Yeah.
And really, we're not listening to our intuition to go, okay, I've been connected with this person for some reason. Maybe I should just put my fears aside and talk to them and
Mm-hmm.
explore what this is about in the safest way possible.
And I noticed, and it's funny, as I've been working very hard to maintain this observer standpoint in my life and observing reactions. I think that's the first part of my coaching or guidance that I do for people is you observe the thoughts, you observe the triggers, you observe where the thought is going. And with this trigger that had happened with the whole Freemason thing, um, I watched the evolution of fear, like I'm unsafe, you know,
Yeah.
and it go to, wait a minute, what do you even know about them? I don't even have enough knowledge to even have this irrational fear.
Right.
And I think you're someone that, I find to be a respectful human being that I would like to learn more from you about this subject. So I eventually went to, okay, all right, it's fine. It's okay. How can I have this irrational fear when I don't even know that much? Exactly.
Well, that's my
Essentially.
exact point, and why I'm glad that you shared it so articulately, because this is the point for all of us when we're triggered, to take a step back, to be the observer, and to go,
Yeah.
is this a
That's
rational
real?
fear or an
Yeah.
irrational fear?
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's irrational.
Mm-hmm.
More often than not, it's irrational, but we think that it is rational. So, and you're right, and you got yourself to the right place too, of like, look, maybe I should just find out more about this, and then I can decide if there's a rational fear here or not.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a lot of the same thing with our triggers. That person said something that I didn't like, so now I think I wipe out all the good they've ever done.
Yes.
Like,
Cutthroat.
what? We're not built
Us
that
cancers
way.
are good at that.
Yes, but we're also like, we're not built that way. We're humans. We're going to make mistakes. I'm going to say things that you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love that what you said earlier, that you're not going to like everybody all the time,
yeah, no, it's not
but we have to
possible.
accept them. And you
Yeah.
talk about that in your book too. Acceptance is huge in, I think, surviving this world.
Yeah.
In any situation, in any trigger, in any conversation, in any disagreement, in anything, if you can just stop and say, listen, I accept everything the way that it is right now in this moment, then you can find peace within and you can still move forward. I accept that I just hit this golf ball in a completely different area I didn't want to, but I can reverse it. I can go back, I can get back, acceptance is the
Well,
program.
not reverse it. That's different
Or
than acceptance. Well, acceptance in that
not
metaphor
reverse.
is you go and hit the ball from where it is, not where you wish it was, which is the point that I wanted to get to.
But like your score can essentially still stay on a good track, even if
Yeah,
it
you could make
isn't
up
on.
that shot somewhere else
Right. Okay.
during the round by
Exactly.
hitting a better shot than you thought that you were
Yeah.
capable
That's what I
of.
was trying to say.
Possibly even in that very next shot. Thank you. You're doing a great job faking that
Thanks.
you know about golf.
Hey, I
Um,
know a little bit. A little bit.
but listen, it's a really important thing for all of us to realize. We have to start from where we are, not where we wish we were.
Right. Amen.
And we have to talk to people and meet them where they are, not where we wish they were. Right? Yeah, that's not easy, and it's not necessarily fun all the time.
But so essential.
So essential. It's the real practice of acceptance. We have to accept what is if we want to make it different. If we resist what is, it only gains power and it stays.
Yeah.
If we accept it and embrace it, from there we can go, okay, this is where I am. Where do I want to get to from here? In a golf sense or a life sense, whatever it is. Okay, I'm here now. I want to get over there. What's the best way to do that? Okay, these are the things that are the best way to do that. Let me go and try that. And then again, you hit that ball in that direction to try and make, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. From that next space, you do that again, over and over and over. And sometimes you get to accept really great things. You hit the ball right next to the hole or even in the hole. Well, you have to accept that too, and accept that that's not necessarily going to happen next time you play this hole. That you were fortunate enough to have it happen today.
Good one.
It's not always going to be like this.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant.
So we're coming up on an hour now. Can you believe it?
Wow. Yeah.
Really? Was I that boring?
No.
So
we have so much to talk about.
I know. So we don't have to cut it off here, but I do want to start sort of winding down. So if there's things you want to talk about, want to ask me, or things you want to talk about with your own work, if you want to get into that you actually have learned as a healer and gone so far away from your traditional Midwestern background that you actually get direct messages from aliens now, which I find fascinating and I choose to believe. I told you also one of my most important messages for myself and anyone else I talk to is that, you know, regarding aliens or anything else controversial like that, the truth is the truth. And it does not care whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
The example I've used all the time on this podcast and in my talks is gravity. Choose to stop believing in gravity and see what happens.
Yeah.
Walk along the edge of a cliff. There are actual implications to our beliefs that we choose. And not implications to the truth, because the truth just is. But there are implications to the way we think about things. So when it's something so controversial, how can you believe in aliens? Well, I don't know. How could I not? Why wouldn't I explore that belief? Because mathematically, to me, it seems way more far-fetched that there's not intelligent life in the universe, given the expanse of it.
Yeah.
So to me, it just fits. It makes sense. I've seen things too that have furthered that belief. But how did you get to that place of like accepting in yourself that this is a gift that you have and that there's really important messages that you can get from other beings out there that can help us here now?
Yeah. So growing up, I have an awesome IGTV on my Instagram page that really goes into this much deeper, but I've always seen things since I was a little girl. And I think my most earliest memory was I saw these dark entities flying at my face. I believe I was 3 or 4 years old. And growing up in a very religious household, they had the pastor come and pray over the house and it disappeared. But then I think when I was even younger than that, my mom mentioned for 2 weeks straight, I would not leave her side and I'd be like, oh, mommy, tell them to stop poking me, you know, and she was like, what the hell is going on, you know? So most of my life and being brought up in that is the devil, those are demons, you know, talking to spirits outside of what you can see in front of your face, even though some people see them right in front of their face. It's like, oh, I think that's real. I know you don't see it, but
Right.
so I had a psychic tell me a long time ago, wow, you have a lot of gifts. Like, I don't even think you know your gifts. So of course, plant medicine really helped me dissolve the ego mind and dissolve this understanding that we are not alone, and I've always had this inner knowing that there is so much more, you know, even questioning the church as a young child, like, I don't get it, Dad, like, explain this to me, it just doesn't make sense, you know, there has to be something more to this. So in a plant medicine experience, I saw a place that I knew was home. My intention going into the ceremony was, you have to show me where I'm from, because I know that I'm from somewhere other than this. Like, I've never felt like Earth was where I belonged. I respect it and I see it for what it is, but I needed more. I needed to know. And right away, when the medicine hit me, I saw this gorgeous place of knowingness and oneness and no need for language and no need for words, where love was literally all that existed. So I know in the core of my being that that's actually possible here, and that that's the direction that we're heading.
Right.
But I actually was I saw aliens a couple times when I was a little girl, but like terrified, right? Underneath the sheets, hiding. Oh my God, there's things trying to talk to me. There's spirits always trying to talk to me, whatever. Get away from me in Jesus' name. You know, that was what I was taught.
Right.
Then I was safe again. Archangel Michael. So what happened, I was 8 months pregnant and I did a sensory deprivation tank, the flow tank.
Oh, wow.
And I was the healthiest person ever when I was pregnant. So I was very in tune. And all of a sudden I saw like very strong visions of these blue figures taking my body, interestingly enough. And it was almost like I was being born. But I was a woman and I had very long hair. And at the time I had short hair. So I was a little confused because time is not linear with them. Time is not linear. But that's a whole nother conversation.
It is a whole nother. I hear
we
you.
don't have time for that.
And we ain't got time for that. But yes, time is a human made up construct.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist elsewhere in the universe.
Yeah. And these blue creatures, and I was like, I'm not ready to go there yet, you know. And they said, okay, but we do need to tell you something. Like, your son is going to be very connected to this as well. This energy there, he's going to be communicating a lot of things to you, and don't be alarmed. And my son definitely has the gift of premonition, and he's a healer just like me. So that was my first experience. And then ayahuasca wasn't really around that, but I guess psilocybin was more when I saw more of the aliens. But then now I'm at a place where I started reading this book about the Pleiadians, and I've always been attracted to Orion's belt. I've always been attracted, ever since I was a little girl, the constellation just in the sky was so awesome to me, and I never understood why, you know? Why do I love this weird 3 lines of stars and the head? I don't get it, you know?
Same.
Yeah, we're from the same stars, I think. Oh, I just lost my earring. So, basically, the Pleiades is essentially where these energy dimensional beings are from. And I started reading this book, The Pleiadian View of Reality. I had a psilocybin experience, and I channeled 13 pages of messages from them, and that was something I wanted to bring up for you too, as far as like channeling this book, you know, and starting in Sedona, which is a vortex, a very powerful place that ignites that within you. But yeah, so now they come to me and I can turn it on and they tell me many things, and I have a specific energy, but they're very loving. It's all love. They're the color blue, which is the color of truth. and they only come to help support us. And I believe a lot of that energy is here now, supporting us
Yeah,
during this time. We need all the help we can get.
I think so too. I really appreciate you sharing that, and putting yourself out there, just not just today, but in general, like, you know, to the potential ridicule of, oh, that person's just crazy. Okay, well,
Right.
maybe. I mean, we're all crazy. So
Right.
you
But
think,
when
I
it's
mean,
truth, it doesn't matter.
that's right. It's like
I know it as my truth. And if you
what I
think I'm
talked
crazy,
about.
I'm sorry.
It's what I talked about before. Yeah, but again, it's not, people get caught up in this, in my truth. There's no my truth. There's the truth, and then there's not the
Oh,
truth, right? So the truth is, either you get communications from aliens or you don't. And we
yeah.
can debate that or decide whatever. It feels true to
Mm-hmm.
you, which is why you say my truth. I get that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that you're right. I mean, it's the same reason why I don't tell people all the time. I haven't talked about it publicly very often at all, if at all, about channeling the book, because I know a lot of people would say, oh, that's not true. Okay, well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But it either is
Yeah.
or it isn't. And my belief or your belief doesn't change whether it is or isn't. I was there. I know what happened. I sat here with
Mm-hmm.
my laptop and said, okay, you guys told me to write this. Tell me what to write. And then the messages just started coming.
And then it also healed you, which I loved that you said that in the book. It healed you along the way. And that's exactly what my channeling does.
Yeah,
Is it not only is a message for whoever needs to hear it, it's mostly a message for me too.
sure, of
And
course.
heals me.
And the healing is also just in the act of channeling,
Yeah.
right? It's like when we talk about the
There's
ayahuasca thing, you get messages and you get visions, but also just the songs that are being played and singing and dancing, that's also the healing. You don't even have to go have these visions. So like, the medicine
mm-hmm.
is just healing you. The energy is healing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so all of that, the reason I brought that up at the end is I want people out there to know that we all have gifts. We all have different ones because we are all different spiritual beings, and different humanly as well. Um, we all have different gifts, but we all have gifts that are meant to help humanity, to help our communities, to help our families. And I want to encourage people to go explore. If you think that you've always felt these things, seen these things, and you thought that you're just crazy,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you are, and maybe you're not.
Yeah.
Maybe you're one of the more sane ones because
And
you.
it's the fear. Don't be so the fear is social conditioning too.
Yeah.
And if
Eh,
you keep denying that part of yourself, know that life can even get easier if you
yeah.
accept those
Can you
gifts.
hear that weed blower or that leaf blower outside?
A little bit, but it's not
Okay.
terrible.
I won't get up and shut the window then, but yeah, no, you're right. It's just embracing. Look, you talked about the Great Awakening. Many light workers, healers, astrologers, psychics, everybody's talking about this because it's real. This is the age of Aquarius. That song in the 60s was about this time. The
Watch
age
the
of
music video.
the
It's
age of
great.
Aquarius just started 2 years ago, literally.
Yeah.
So we're at the very dawn of the very dawn of a very new age in
Yeah.
humanity, in the universe, in all of it. And now is the time. This pandemic, whether it was contrived or it's been blown out of proportion for political gain, or if you think it's been not blown out of proportion enough for political gain, any of that, like, this whole thing is not an accident.
Right.
It's forcing us all, like you said, to look at our fears, to look at ourselves, to look at the world. We all claim we want to leave a better world for future generations. Very few of us do fuck all about it. Excuse my
Right.
language. I usually don't say that on this podcast, but I think that is a really important emphasis point.
Yes. Come on, let's go.
If you want to change the world, if you want to make it better, you have all the answers inside you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Look inward and find them.
Yeah.
Stop worrying about what everybody else is doing or not doing. That's not going to fix anything. That's going to give us more of what we've already had. And we know that
Yeah.
that doesn't work. Right? Getting
Mm-hmm.
rid of those people that I disagree with. It's happening now in the world. There's a genocide going on again in Armenia, in a very small remote area of Armenia. We've tried genocide. It doesn't work. Getting rid of those people that we don't think are valid is not the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Embracing everyone into the oneness is the answer. Dealing with our own crap so that we can love others. And the only way we can love others is by loving ourselves.
I used to hate that quote.
I know it.
You know that quote? Well, you're not going to find the person for you unless you learn to love yourself first. You're like, what the fuck does that mean? You know?
And how am I supposed to do that?
Yeah, I don't get it. Tell me, somebody, please.
Sit quietly
but now
and look
we're
inward.
Awakening to that. Now people are saying, oh, I kind of understand, you know?
Look, self-love is a tough thing for me. I've grown up as a
my clients have it's a very difficult thing for people.
I've grown up as a very insecure, very self-judgmental person. This does not bring me joy and ease in my life. So I've learned to unwind that, and why I've avoided romantic relationships over the last 5-6 years for the most part is because I am on this inward journey of like, I just need to find enough within myself and not need to get that from anyone else or anywhere else.
Right.
And like, yeah, that's this really weird ethereal thing. And how do I do it? I don't know. Everybody's different. So you have to just go on your own journey.
And
Valerie and I can help you with that. And there are plenty of other people that can help you with that. But really, you have to do it. Each of us has to do it. And I'm now getting to the place finally where I feel that within myself, and plant medicine for me was like that last piece that I was missing. Mm-hmm. To just have the medicine and the energy show me that feeling that everything that I've ever needed is within. Yeah. So it's not some philosophical, theoretical thing, which we all heard and we've all talked about, but how do you do it? I don't know. An ayahuasca ceremony helped me do it. It helped me connect to that, to realize that I am the one. And I don't mean from an ego place, I'm the one, look at me. I mean, I am a branch of the one that connects everything. We all are.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of controversy too around the needing the plant medicine to find that oneness. And something that I feel I need to point out is we have been so stuck in this physical 3-dimensional reality of and these belief systems that are so deeply ingrained in our brain that plant medicine is a gift to our brains. It is in psilocybin, for instance, mushrooms are older than planet Earth. Yeah. It's a medicine that helps rewire the brain from trauma. And I mean, people can look at studies. There are studies that's helping people with severe depression and bipolar and PTSD and trauma.
Yeah, of course.
Because when your brain is wired that way, you think your way out of that. You just can't. It's not possible. I mean, over lots of time, but why not have something that can assist you to just open your heart in a way? But with plant medicine, there comes a lot of surrender, and there comes a lot of facing your fear. It's not fun.
No.
You know, when somebody says to me, "Oh, you're just drugs," no, it's ayahuasca was the most difficult experience next to childbirth.
I've gone to 2 ceremonies now, and I can tell you, I had one night that was like amazing. It was almost like being on ecstasy. I was very fortunate. I knew it when it was happening and after it ended, because the other 2 nights that I've had have been very difficult and very challenging. But again, you want to heal yourself, you want to get past your stuff. It's not easy.
No. You can't,
and there's no magic pill or magic drink or magic mushroom.
But it gets easier and you get stronger.
Yeah, but what I want to say is, you talked about rewiring the brain. I think you're right. I think the rewiring in those moments of psilocybin, which is mushrooms, or ayahuasca, which is something else,
DMT.
A brewed, DMT and a brewed thing. It rewires the brain to remind, so that you remember that everything is connected. So the
Right.
the pain that people experience in the world is they think that everything is separate, and I'm separate from you, and
Yes,
especially in our
exactly.
capitalist society, I have to do better than you, or even in an
Hmm.
extreme communist society, you don't know enough, so I'm going to control you, and I'm going to dole out everything for you.
Well, keeping them separate, they can control you.
Right, but that's what I mean is that there's this epidemic of separation in humanity. The reality is that we really are all connected. We
Yeah.
really are all part of the same thing. And it was one of my Masonic esoteric friends that I met at an ayahuasca ceremony told me, he's like, we're not actually part of the same thing. We are all the same thing. We are all. So I've, trying to find a way to say that makes sense to me, which I haven't come up with yet, but I think it's an important distinction. We're not all just fragmented parts. That's separation.
Hmm.
We are all this thing, this oneness, this universe, this consciousness, um, all of it. So to me, yes, we don't need plant medicine to remember those things.
We don't
And,
need it, but we do. I think that
and
we need to
well, that's
have,
the thing is humanity is so sick that maybe we do need plant
yeah, we
medicine
need
to
help. Yeah.
just jumpstart us back in the right direction,
Exactly. And
right?
I think that's why there is this influx of it happening now.
Yeah,
It's really becoming a common thing to talk about. It's
yeah.
becoming, I
And
mean,
I do
even
want
in, yeah.
I do want to say I've done a podcast in the past with Tony Taberna about ayahuasca and plant medicine. Listen, it's not something to be messed with. It's not a
No.
fun drug. I will admit that when I was a kid in college, we took mushrooms for fun and we'd drink beers with them. This was a very disrespectful way to open your mind. It did help me in that moment and get me to the next phase. But now I come from a much more respectful place with plant medicine. It's not something to be experimented with and trifled with. Find a place where you can do it in a safe way, whether that's going to South America, which obviously is very difficult now, or finding a church in America that's legal,
A
or
shaman.
a shaman that that can really help you with it. Because one thing that I've learned, it's not easy, and that it can take you to some pretty dark places, which are very challenging. You don't want to be doing that in a place where you don't have the support that you need and the
Yeah.
grounding that you need, because that literally can send you off, spinning off into space, um, and and in some cases it's hard or impossible to get back from. So
It's
I
the
don't.
vine of souls.
Yeah,
You're literally opening up the conduit of all souls, the lower world and the upper world. So
yeah,
that's why shamans are necessary to help protect that energetic field, essentially.
correct. So interestingly enough, my sister's calling me back now and texting me. Who's the one, uh, for those of nobody else knows this, but that's how I met Valerie, was through my sister Diana. So thanks, Dee Dee.
Thanks, Dee Dee.
Thank you for this conversation. It's been great. I look forward to
Yeah.
more of this and exploring what we can do together to further these messages. And we're both looking for partnerships professionally to broaden the megaphone and expand the message, because as you've been told by many
We're all
people,
in
and
this
I've been
together.
told by many people, we're all in this together, and these messages are important. People want to
Yeah.
hear this stuff. When we were growing up, they didn't want to hear this stuff. Those are just the crazy new age people. Now the crazy new age people are becoming the norm, and the people that are still living the 9 to 5 material world are the crazy ones, because
Yeah.
it's like, what are you doing? We've tried this. We know it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Let's try something else. So thank you for your bravery in putting yourself out there, and your honesty and your authenticity that you brought to this conversation today, and every day that you do this work.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you for writing this book.
Yes, Zilosophy on Golf. Go buy it.
Yeah, for sure. It's excellent.
Well, there you go.
Thanks for having me. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you. And
Namaste.
Namaste right here. I'll stop the recording and then we'll talk some more. There you have it. That is the Zilosophy podcast for today. Thank you so much for joining us. It's so great to be back. How amazing is Valerie, the radiant warrior? Um, I'm so fortunate to have met her and look forward to working with her on many projects in this type of work moving forward. She's an amazing soul, an amazing spirit. Please follow her on Instagram. It is at the Radiant Warrior on Instagram. She does these amazing 10, 12-minute videos of messages that she gets and just really incredible, healing, positive stuff. So I really enjoy it. Also, like I said, go check out inclusivity.golf. That's spelled with a TEE. You can check out the video and the overview deck on the website. If your company is looking for some unique diversity, equity, and inclusion training, well, we're the people for you. You can see the team on the deck. And again, a lot of people are just doing the standard old school dry training about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the messages aren't getting through because people are bored and they don't want to hear it. Like, we can do this in a fun and even a funny way. We can use humor to open people up, to get their attention, to have them listen and engage in the conversation so that they actually participate in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And isn't that the point? Inclusivity means everybody's included. We don't exclude anyone. That's a difficult thing, right? Because there are people we don't like, there are people we don't necessarily care for, but we have to find a way to include everyone if we want this to work and if we want it to be fair for everyone. So check out inclusivity.golf. Please stay tuned. There'll be some more podcasts here. I'll be filling you in on the inclusivity.golf podcast. And we'll be starting that very soon as well. And stay tuned for some more exciting news. I'm going to be doing a Zoom talk for Temple Beth Elohim on the 18th. That's a closed Zoom talk just for those people, but thought I'd mention it anyway because I'm doing it. And if you guys want me to come and do a Zoom talk on Zilosophy on golf or inclusivity or anything like that for your organization, for your school, for your company, hit me up at info@zilosophy.org and we'll get you sorted. We'll do some great stuff. So thanks for listening and we'll talk to you soon. You're welcome.